This is the Dementia Care Collaborative's Health and Resiliency Program. We meet the first Tuesday evening of each month, 5:30 to 6:30. We are the caregiver support program of the Dementia Care Collaborative. We were started at MGH back in 2017. We are part of the Palliative Care and Geriatric Medicine Division, and our mission is to transform memory care. We exist at MGH in order to educate, connect, and support patients, caregivers, clinicians, and everyone in the community, everyone who shows up. We offer care consultations to caregivers and patients in specific MGH clinics. We offer skills classes for caregivers. We offer support groups. We offer health and resiliency programming like this. And we are entirely funded by philanthropy. So if these programs have benefited you, people you love, you'd like to give a gift, you're welcome to chat with me or Judy or Susan or Barbara, or just go to our website and there's a big red donate button. You kind of can't miss it. So that's the scoop on the Dementia Care Collaborative. I'm just excited to welcome Emilie back. Emilie has been a meditation and yoga guide for me for a couple of years, and I'm so excited that now you all get to work with her too. Emilie will introduce herself. I turn it over to Emilie.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. And thank you so much for taking a moment out of your day to do something for you. I just want to say that this is entirely for you. So if you need to come and go, please take care of yourself. And everything I offer is an opportunity and an experiment. So I like being in the experiment with you and other people who I work with. And I hope tonight is at least interesting, if not enjoyable. So as Nori said, I am a yoga and meditation guide. I use the word guide because teacher implies that you don't already know how to do it yourself. And I come from the instinctive meditation school from my teacher, Lauren Roche. And he really believes, and I also feel like meditation is a natural instinct. And so today's meditation on the senses is very much one of those tuning into a natural thing that you are aware of, or you can become more aware of, and how we can use that as a doorway into meditation. So I've been teaching yoga and meditation for more than 10 years now. I used to own a yoga studio, which closed last year, and love that community, and I'm still connected with them, which is where Nori and I met. And now I offer programs online. I can share a little bit more about that with you later, but Nori, if you want to pop my website into the chat box, just in case you want to stay connected with me later, most of the information about things that I offer is going to be there. So let's start with something that doesn't feel like meditation necessarily. It's actually a practice called dry brushing that comes from the self-Reiki practice. And that is simply a way to connect with your sense of touch, but also kind of wipe off whatever may have happened before you showed up to this moment. Some of us have had some moments before we got here. So how does that sound? You could stand up for it. I'm going to stay seated so you can see me, but it's generally just taking the hands and literally brushing yourself off. Take your hand, brush your arm off, come across the chest, underneath your armpit there, the back, the low back, brush down the legs. If you're sitting, fold down, get the feet, the inside of the leg, brush it off. And notice you're connecting with your sense of touch already. How does it feel to do that? And also have this sense of like, whew, all right. All right. Thank you for trying that out. So before we get into the actual meditation, I just want to touch on the senses for a moment. We tend to think of our 5 main senses and the sense organs connected to it, right? Touch and the skin, particularly the fingers, because we connect so much with our world in that way. Sight, sound and hearing, taste and smell. But well, I would say it depends on who you ask, but there are more than 5 senses, somewhere between 20 and 35, probably. You have a sense of hunger, a sense of thirst, a sense of your blood pressure and balance. If anybody's ever had an ear infection or vertigo, you know what it's like when you lose that inner sense of balance. There's touch, but there's also deep touch, right? When you've had a massage and the person goes a little bit more intensely. And then there's light touch, like maybe when you caress your cat or your pet or a soft fabric. So there's all these different levels of sensation and sense. And I just wanted to open you up to think about it a little bit more beyond those 5 that you might consider the classic 5 senses. You also have a sense of gravity and where the center is, right? Your body's constantly, as long as things are working correctly, right? Your body's constantly figuring out how to keep you upright, which is good news, right? 99% of the time, you are not going to fall on your face. Your whole system is working for you to find the center and be there. Thirst, touch, blood pressure, blood sugar levels. Your body tends to have a sense of where those are. Sleep, right? When you're tired, when you have a sense of energy and aliveness. So all these different levels of sense and sensation. I mentioned that I believe that meditation is a natural instinct, and it's natural to us humans to want to connect or disconnect. In some ways, people think of meditation as disconnecting, but I think of meditation as connecting with ourselves and with our world just a little bit differently. So let me talk, and some of you may remember this from last month, excuse me, about what actually happens in meditation, some of the science behind it. So when you go to sleep at night, let's go there first. There's a lot of work going on. In fact, as my meditation teacher says, it's almost like it's too intense. Your body knocks you out, right? Every day you get knocked out because you really can't handle all the repair work that's going on. You need to just be asleep for it. And your body's working pretty hard. But there is a point, usually about 4 to 5 hours into sleep, where your oxygen consumption level drops about 5 to 8%. And that just means it's nothing to be worried about. It means that the rate at which your body is working and using oxygen to complete all of its functions lowers, which indicates this state of deep rest. But it takes 4 to 5 hours for most people to get there, which is why sometimes if you're only sleeping maybe 2 or 3 hours at a time, you may not get there, and it tends to wear on you and you might have a sleep deprivation, right? So all the studies they've done on meditation, some of which have happened here in the state of Massachusetts, others at UCLA and other places, and this has been studied since the 60s and 70s all the way through to today. Well, what they found that's really interesting is that within 3 to 5 minutes of meditation, your oxygen consumption level drops below what you get in deep sleep, somewhere to 8 to 15% lower than when you're awake and alert. So what does that mean? It means that in a very short amount of time through meditation, we can get a sense of really deep rest. And that doesn't mean that we're still or quiet or that we're not actually aware of thoughts or ourselves during that time, but there is this sense of deep rest. Now, this is not an excuse for skipping sleep. I just want to put that out there. Your body needs sleep. There are things that happen there that cannot happen during meditation. And it's totally fine if you fall asleep during meditation. Probably is an indication that you have a sleep deprivation of some sort. So the science, I hope that's interesting to you. I think that's really fascinating that your body can do that, and your body seeks that. So that's where that natural instinct is. You may not be feeling tired enough to go to sleep like you do with your circadian rhythm at night, but your body seeks moments and times during the day when it wants to repair itself. It needs that few minutes even of restoration and relaxation. But what's funny is the first thing that tends to happen is people will start to get their body relaxed, and then they'll remember all the reasons why they were stressed out before. The to-do list, I hear some nodding and I see some nodding and some thumbs up. Anybody else been there, right? So you're probably thinking like, am I doing it wrong? No, you're not. This is totally normal. This is one of the actual benefits of meditation, is that you're practically rehearsing things that are happening in your life, or things that you're worried about or caring about. I like to use the word caring for instead of, or tending to instead of worrying. Excuse me. And that's because you're practicing that, or you're thinking about those things, but in a relaxed state. And perhaps some of you are familiar with this experience too, when we have the resources that we need, both physically and otherwise, we tend to, as humans, act in a way that is more resourceful, more mindful. It's when we're tired and sleep deprived and add on whatever else you want to that list, that we tend to perhaps have shorter tempers, or maybe not act out in our own best interest, let alone for those around us. So this is one of the many reasons why meditation is amazing, and why I don't want you to feel discouraged if you ever sat down and quote unquote tried to meditate and you feel like your mind and your experience is very active. So if you have a very active life and you care about a lot of people and things, you're very likely to have a similar experience during meditation. And what tends to happen is that there's a part of the meditation experience where things are very active. You're thinking about your to-do list. You're maybe rearranging it for a moment. You're remembering, oh yeah, did I put out the food for the dog? I can't remember. Okay, well, my husband will get it. Don't worry, Of course, if you forgot to turn off the stove, maybe you actually get up and do that. But for the most part, there's some things that you kind of sort through your mind. There's like a sorting period that happens at the beginning. And then what happens is there's this call to heal. And if you heed it, you end up kind of going into this place where often people think or say that they aren't aware of thoughts, and it might last for a few seconds. And the only reason why they are aware that they weren't thinking about things is that afterwards they suddenly become aware. They're like, oh wait, I was meditating. It happens to some of you here. I hear some of the I'm mouth lip reading at the moment. So this is all part of it. And that cycle of entering, feeling very busy and remembering all the reasons why you were stressed out before, and then going into what people think of as the meditation, when really it's all of it. That might be like 30 seconds, 90 seconds, and the cycle continues until you decide to kind of hop off and say, okay, I feel good now, or I feel done now, or the doorbell rang, right? And I need to go. So I just want to mention that in case it's helpful or useful, and also to understand that this is absolutely normal for everyone who meditates. So not to be discouraged if you feel very active and busy. I sometimes think that perhaps the gifts of meditation happen afterwards. We might be very busy during the meditation, if you want to call it busy, or very active with our mind, with our awareness of things. And then afterwards, do you feel a sense of like, oh, okay, maybe a sense of relaxation? Maybe for some people, they solve a problem that they didn't find a solution to when they were awake and alert, right? And so this is one of the benefits that I love about meditation, is we get to practice things. We get to feel out things. We get to solve problems in some cases, take care of people, and even have conversations with ourselves or with others in a relaxed state. And so that is my hope tonight with our meditation on the senses. So, are you ready? Thank you for listening. There's a lot there. You can take whatever works for you, and we'll have plenty of time for questions. If there's a question you don't want to forget, feel free to pop it in the chat at any time. So, before we get started, I just want to say that you can meditate in any position you'd like. And I'm not here watching you and checking to make sure you're doing everything that I'm saying, but you can even start standing up. So I'm going to do that for a moment if I can. And the reason for that is I want you to start by feeling into your sense of gravity. And maybe even if you're sitting, sway a little bit from side to side. And feel your feet heavy on the floor. Feel your weight shifting left and right. And if you're sitting, you might just feel your head kind of bobble or sway. And it doesn't have to be a big movement. For some of you, you might enjoy closing the eyes, whether you're sitting or standing. And notice what you're aware of from this very simple thing, standing or sitting and swaying. And then make the movement a little bit smaller. See if you are aware, or you can kind of find where's the center, where things feel maybe balanced is a word you can use. Maybe the swaying is really subtle, almost liquid. At any time, feel free to sit back down or even lie down if you prefer. You can change your mind at any point. Notice that sense of movement, even within what might feel like stillness, when you find that center point, that balanced point. And then let's bring our awareness to your sense of touch. You might take one hand and touch the other one, or your arm, or your leg even. And notice the sense of touch on your skin, of your clothes, maybe of your clothes on your skin. There's deep touch, right? When you kind of squeeze. Yeah, and some of you are rubbing your neck. What a great opportunity. You can kind of squeeze there. Or a shoulder, deep touch. Or maybe there's light touch, like you're almost caressing your face or brushing the hair out of your eyes. And spend a few moments just exploring touch. And if you would prefer to simply imagine touch and think of maybe one of your favorite things to feel the texture of. Sometimes a memory of touch or sensation will come to you. If you have pets, perhaps that moment when you're petting your dog or cat, or snuggling your cozy comforter when you get in bed at night. And give thanks for your sense of touch, whatever capacity you have to touch. Now bring your awareness to your sense of sound and hearing, whatever capacity that might be. Notice sounds that feel far away. Notice sounds that feel close. Internal sounds and external sounds. And give thanks for this sense of sound and hearing. Now bring your awareness to your sense of smell. Notice if your mind went straight to the tip of your nose. Perhaps there's a scent in the room. Or maybe a smell memory, something you love the smell of. Flowers, cookies. And give thanks for your sense of smell. Now bring your awareness to your sense of taste. Maybe you notice the texture in your mouth or any taste that you're aware of. Maybe there's a taste memory or something that you love the taste of. You might even feel your mouth watering slightly. Or maybe you notice other sensations in your body as you hold this taste, memory, or moment in your mind. Now bring your attention to your sense of sight. Even with the eyes closed, you might notice colors, shapes, or the quality of light in the room. If you like, you can open the eyes softly and notice, where do your eyes want to go? What do your eyes, closed or open, what do they like to see the sights of? If you have them gently open, maybe tune into your panoramic or peripheral vision, a sense of softness instead of focus. In your mind, bring yourself to a place or a time when you saw something that struck you with a sense of wonder and awe. Maybe the view at the top of a mountain peak, a bright, starry night sky, a flower, or something else, perhaps even the face of someone you love. And welcome all of the things you become aware of. As you hold this moment or this image in your mind, how do you feel in your belly, on your skin, in your heart? Welcome any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations. For the next few moments, if it feels interesting to you, perhaps enjoy the sensations of this natural act of breathing that we do every day. Allow yourself to breathe softly and sweetly. There's nothing you need to change about your breath. There is magic in paying attention to it. Perhaps notice any sensations near the nose, the touch of the air as it moves in and out. Any sense of temperature or change in temperature. Notice your sense of movement as your body expands to make room for the breath. Maybe your clothes shift slightly against your skin. Maybe there's sound, a soft hush. Continue to delight in your experience of the breath. If you find that your mind is off somewhere else, maybe that's what's more interesting. You can continue your experience and continue to cherish whatever sensations you're aware of. Be gentle with yourself. Maybe you keep the eyes closed for a little longer. It's important not to rush the transition out of any meditation experience. So perhaps while you linger for a little bit, I'd like to read to you an excerpt from a book called the Radiance Sutras. I'll type it in the chat afterwards. And it reads a little bit like poetry, but if you listen closely, there are actually meditation instructions. All around you, in every moment, the world is offering a feast for your senses. Songs are playing. Tasty food is on the table. Fragrances are in the air. Colors fill the eyes with light. You who long for union, attend this banquet with loving focus. The outer and inner worlds open to each other. Oneness of vision, oneness of heart. Right here, in the midst of it all, mount the elation, ascend with it, become identical with the ecstatic sense, embracing both worlds. All around you, in every moment, the world is offering a feast for your senses. You're welcome to continue lingering, or maybe become aware of your posture. Often when we relax, we tend to scrunch down, so you might feel yourself wanting to shift or move or even stretch with your arms or yawn. Take in the light in your space, maybe look around. Sometimes things look a little different, or the colors look different after an experience of meditation. And then if you like, we'll come back together in a more community sense for some Q&A or reflection. So if you'd like, you can use the chat box to ask a question. But before we begin the Q&A, I want to ask you a question, which is, how do you feel right now? Is there a word or two? And pop it into the chat. Often when we express, thank you, Nori. Often when we express our experience, it makes it even stronger, and most likely someone else resonates with what you say as well. So we have peaceful, relaxed, sleepy, relaxed, calm, much less ragged, more relaxed. Wonderful. I also want to say that sometimes we feel not those things after meditation. So if that's your experience today or any other day, that's okay too. You know, sometimes we feel energized or like a calm sense of energy. Sometimes it's something different. Content, grateful, something I definitely needed, slower, interesting. Thank you for sharing your responses. Totally relaxed. Awesome. Thoughtful about people who don't have the use of all their senses. I feel more compassionate. Yeah. Or we may not have, the capacity of our senses that we once thought. Most of us, our eyes and our ears and other things, even the sense of touch on our fingers changes with time, or if you've ever had an accident in the kitchen and accidentally cut off the tip of your finger, you probably I just did that, which is why I'm holding a tissue. Everything is fine. But I did that just beforehand. So I have a history of it, unfortunately. All right, so happy to have this gift to give to myself. Yeah, even just a few minutes. That meditation could be a 5-minute meditation, or it could be an hour-long meditation. In this case, you were in the guided experience for about 25 minutes. So just to give you a sense of time, sometimes time feels weird when you're in meditation. It's either really quick or super slow. So yeah, glad I made time for this today. Great. Thank you for being here. So if anyone has a reflection or a comment or a question that they have for me, it's helpful if you can raise your hand underneath the screen here at the bottom of your screen. There's something called reactions. It has a little smiley face, and you can raise your hand there. Or if you're on camera, you can wave, and if you're not sure how to raise your hand officially with that button, you can literally raise your hand and I can call on you. Yeah, any and all comments are welcome. Unless you're already maybe in bed and you're getting ready to go to sleep anyway, some people use meditation to help them fall asleep, then it would be great to do it, in bed right before you're intending to go to bed. If you are in trying not to fall asleep, then I usually recommend not doing it right before sleep, because sometimes people feel like this calm sense of energy and then they have trouble getting to sleep an hour or so later. So it just depends. I do think that there's some magic in what I like to call the threshold moments of the day. So early morning, where you kind of feel still a little bit sleepy, and same thing, right before bed where you're drifting, you get that sense of drifting. And then for me, my current magic time is after lunch. I have a few minutes to sort of digest, but then I meditate. And sometimes I fall asleep. Like today, I was actually listening to myself, something I recorded a couple years ago to see how it sounded still. And I ended up falling asleep. So it just means that I needed to take a nap instead, which is lovely. But yes, if you're trying to obviously sleep first, and if you're trying to stay awake for it, that sort of awake, alert, but relaxed, then you can time it according to sort of when your energy levels allow for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. There was another question Nancy had here in the chat. And she said, I would be interested in your thoughts about guided versus unguided meditation. Also, I'd be interested in what you might have to say about longer versus shorter meditation. So thank you for your question, Nancy. First, I'll address the unguided and guided. I think many of us, especially in our culture, we feel like we need someone to guide us along, and it's really lovely to have that guidance, especially to get some ideas on what works for us or what doesn't. And I also love this community sense that we have here, where even though we're not in the same room together, we are meditating together. We have the same intention or a similar intention, and we're doing it together. So the energy, I feel, I don't know how you feel, but I feel is magnified. And this can also happen in a space when you're in person with people doing similar activities. So that's one of the wonderful ways of benefits of guided meditation. And then even if you were just sitting all in the same room together and letting yourself be guided without anyone else guiding you, it's lovely. I think what tends to happen is two things. One, if you're just starting to try to meditate and come up with a practice that works for you, is that you may not know where to start. And the answer is that you often have to try on, just like clothes feel different for everyone, or even on different days. Like some days I don't want to wear that shirt. Like it just doesn't feel right, but I love that shirt. I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to wear it a different day. And different meditation techniques or doorways in, like today's doorway was a meditation on the senses. That might work some days, but it might not work great another day. And so when you're left to your own devices, as long as you know that you know the answer, you can come up with any doorway, then it's wonderful. I feel blessed to have found my teacher, Lauren Roche, who is the author of the Radiant Sutras that I read from earlier, which really is a style of meditation, this instinctive meditation intended for people like us who are householders. You know, we live in the world, we care for others. Some of you are caregivers, actively giving care to others and yourself. And so some of the meditation techniques or some of the very more restrictive guided meditations that come from lovely traditions, you know, the Buddhist tradition has so many gifts to us, but this idea of like, you have to do it a certain way and it only, you know, keep focusing on this thing sometimes doesn't work for most people, especially if you're very active in your life and active in your meditation. So I would just invite you to explore different styles and explore different techniques, different doorways. You know, today it was the senses. Tomorrow you could meditate on petting your dog. You know, the next day you could be out looking at the sky. There's so many different thousands of doorways. And so finding a technique that works for you and for you in that moment takes some practice and takes some time. I hope that's helpful, Nancy. Your other question about longer versus shorter meditation. So that could be more of like a practical thing, like, oh, all I have is 20 minutes. For me, I think 20 minutes is a wonderful thing to work up to. After about 45 minutes or so, it's all kind of, I don't know, it's like if you run for too long, the benefits of running are sort of less each minute that you go kind of thing, if you know what I mean. So this idea of, you know, sitting on a cushion for 4 hours, as lovely as that might be for someone who is a more of a monastic, it's both not practical and possibly not beneficial for householders like ourselves. So, you know, maybe 45 minutes as a maximum. Longer meditation could be an hour. And that's, you know, counting sort of this beginning where you're preparing yourself, and then also your transition period out of it, which I think, you know, you want at least 5 minutes on either side to be able to not give yourself sort of meditation whiplash. You know, like if the doorbell rings and you're like, oh my God, you know, it's sort of, your nervous system kind of jolts and can be a little tender. And there is such a thing as over meditating. You know, it's a little bit easier to talk about time that I didn't live in, but, you know, thinking about maybe the 60s and 70s when my meditation teacher, for example, was doing a lot of meditation, or people who go away to live in a place for a while and spend a lot of time in meditation. It's lovely. But one of the side effects can be that your nervous system is almost like becomes too sensitive. So sometimes it's like, any little jolt of light or sound, you know, you become more sensitive to it. So it's sort of a fine line of like, how much is too much? Most people who live in the world in our culture aren't getting enough meditation, so it's not really a problem, but I just wanted to bring it up as yes, it is possible to over meditate. So I hope that's helpful.
I wanted to say, Emilie, it's 6:29, and like you said, sometimes when we're in that meditation, it's like, were you guiding us for 10 minutes, 25 minutes, 40 minutes? I don't really know. So we are supposed to contain this program to an hour.
And here we are.
And
We
here
did
we
it.
are. I want to thank you so much for offering this experience and giving a different angle on meditation, that it might not just be, sitting on a cushion in a contemplative way, focusing on the breath. I think that's what many folks think it is. So thank you for offering just these ideas that it could be meditating, petting your pet, or looking at the sky, or maybe you don't have a pet and it's like, oh, this woolly sweater. Like, how can we engage in meditation in different ways? So we appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for choosing to take this hour for yourself today. And maybe it's something that you took a little pearl or a little nugget, and you might pass that on to another person and say, I learned how to meditate on a memory of taste today. So thank you so much. We will be back the first Tuesday of December, which I think is the 7th, but I'm not going to pull out my phone to look at it. And we're going to have something about nourishing ourselves through nutrition, through what we put into our bodies. That is going to be with one of our physicians at MGH, Helen, whose last name I have now forgotten, and I will mispronounce it, and I don't want to do that. But so come back for us December, and that'll be in an invitation. It'll be in your December newsletter. So thank you, Emilie, and thank you for everybody here in the Dementia Care Collaborative, because we are all the collaborative together. It's not just the people who work in the collaborative, it's all of us that make it. So thank you to Emilie.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to my coworkers, Judy and Barbara and Susan. I see some of my Ageless Grace students, so thank you for coming.